My name is Matt Pierce. We've got a great topic we're going to be talking about. Of course, I am monitoring the chat today. And don't forget, level up every day. Hey everybody, my name is Matt Pierce. I'm the Learning and Video Ambassador for TechSmith Corporation. We make Snagit, Camtasia, and some other fantastic tools if you haven't heard of us before. We've got a great show for you to talk with you guys about today and share with you guys. So just so you know, you can see I've got a thing up here that says you can ask questions. Put your questions in the chat. We'll do our best to get to them. If we don't get to them, you can always leave a comment and we'll make sure we try to respond to those as well. Of course, we're here today. We're going to be talking with Cindy Lucas. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm super excited. Before we get to that, though, always got to be promoting your stuff, right? Like one of the things I want to promote, which I noticed it didn't, missing a little piece here. I don't know where it went, but my Academy logo. Let's see if we can get the URL up there. There it is, right there. If you want to learn more about creating video, writing scripts, storyboards, you want to learn more about how you can get better on camera, how you can make tutorial videos. We've got tons of free materials in the TechSmith Academy. Again, it's a free learning platform. You go out there, you put in your email and address. You don't have to pay anything, but what you do is sign up and then you can watch all those courses for free. We've got downloadables, all sorts of great content to help you guys make better videos, especially if you're in the learning development space. It's really great for you. So we're through our introductions and our intro stuff early today because I want to get to the conversation. I'm super, super excited. So with me here today is Cindy Lucas from Digital. I should have asked you this, Cindy. How do you say, is it Artifex? Is that the right way to say this?
Yes, Artifex.
Digital Artifex. Yeah, so Cindy's here. We're going to be talking. So Cindy, for those of you who haven't had a chance to meet you or connect with you, haven't seen any of your work, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am the owner of Digital Artifex. We're a creative training agency. I am currently located in Atlanta, but my team is remote. We work from all over the place. We have
Well, you got to get your priorities in there, right?
yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
What's important?
It's interesting that your organization, you've got people kind of global, and I'm sure that makes working interesting, challenging at times, or probably also very rewarding.
Well, I've been working remote for forever. So even before any of this COVID.
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure there's probably a whole set of lessons we could learn from just someone that's been doing this for a long time. I know I'm still figuring it out after, I didn't become a master in 3 months like I thought I would. Still some work to do. So you've got this company. You do lots of training and development, learning development projects for other companies, create content for them. Is that, I'm guessing, is that more like for their external focusing stuff? Is it more internal kind of HR processes? What type of training and development are you guys creating for the most part?
You know what? It's pretty much 50-50. We have clients who want us to create.
Okay, so watching the chat and seeing a little as I'll tell everyone that watches these, still figuring out things. It looks like one of the shots I got set up, the audio's not great, so we're gonna stay on the dual shot so that way they can hear you, which is important. Okay, so we've got this company. You're doing lots of internal, some external stuff, but you weren't always in L&D. Is that correct?
No, I was actually in IT.
IT.
Forever. For like the longest time I was in IT.
And how did you make that transition then? Because I think this happens to a lot of us, to start one place, end up in this world of learning and development. But what's your path that you took?
Yeah, you hear the term accidental, like instructional designer, and I guess that's me. I got bored with what I was doing. I love technology. I really do love technology. I'm a technophile, but I wanted to do something else where I could, use technology and also be creative. And I was working at a telecom company at the time, and they just happened to have an opening in training for an instructional designer. I had never done it, but because I can pick up software very quickly, it didn't really bother me. So I was lucky enough to be able to kind of just move from the IT department into training, and the rest is kind of history.
Okay, so was there something about L&D that really attracted you as you were making that switch, or it just seemed like a kind of interesting opportunity?
Well, I was looking for something where I could use all of my skills. So I started out early on, like 18 years old, as a news writer. So I was a news writer for several years. And then IT, I've always been fairly creative. So I wanted to do something where I could use all of my skills. I get bored very easy. My mom told me when I was little, she was afraid I was going to run off and join the circus. I get bored really easy. So I wanted to do something where I could keep learning new things. I like to learn. And training, it just kind of fit that niche for me because all of our clients do something different. We don't specialize in any one particular type of training or any type of industry. So every time we get a new client, I get to learn something new. So that's fascinating.
So, so here's a question for you then. Just getting to know you a little bit better. Of all those courses that you've done, and that's awesome. That that I think that curiosity is such an important piece of being an instructional designer, learning designer. Like you have to want to learn something about it. But what's one course you've gotten a chance to work on? You've just thought, man, this is really interesting, and you maybe even dug deeper than you needed to.
You know what? I knew you were going to ask that, and the honest answer is nothing. you
Okay.
know, I I learn it, I create it, or we create it, and then I'm happy I learned it. I know something new. I can go on Jeopardy, maybe win some more money because I know something new. But after that, I'm ready to move on to the next topic. I
Okay.
really don't dwell on anything that we've currently done, which is why it was so hard for me to create a portfolio because people will ask you, use all your best pieces. And I'm like, well, they're all good. So at that point, what do you use?
Yeah. Well, give them a subset of like, hey, here's a variety of things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Variety. I don't like anything one, I don't like any one thing other more than other.
Yeah, for sure. So I know as we've talked and got to know each other over the last month or so, it's you've talked about with me that your company uses video a lot. Tell us a little bit about how you guys are using video in your work, whether it's internal to your organization as are dispersed workers, or as you're working with clients.
Well, a lot of our clients want blended learning, right? So we create a lot of videos for them, especially when you're dealing with software. Because you would be surprised how many companies want software training, but they don't actually have the software or they can't actually make the software available to their employees, not even a sandbox. So you can't really emulate that kind of thing with e-learning. You can, but it would be hard and really time consuming. So it's best, well, I found it best practice just to create a video. So that's why I love Camtasia because we can create very quick interactive videos. You can add quizzes. I've been using it for a long time and it's really kind of like my go-to video software. I also know how to use Final Cut and Premiere, so it's not like I'm using it because I have to, but
Right.
it's really intuitive, it's user-friendly. So that's just what we prefer. As far as in-house, we create a lot of in-house courses or certifications. We just created one for Storyline 360, and most of the course is instructional videos. People need to see to learn. Well, not everybody, but most people. So, you know,
Yeah, it's a good way to you can represent the software and all the bits and pieces without having to have it like actually have the software, which I think is an interesting point, right? Like you don't have to have the software to still be able to learn what to do next. I mean, it helps. It definitely is a good part of the learning process, but yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So let's do this, because I think one of the things we can do is I want to learn from you about some of your process in making video. If that's okay, because I'd love
Yeah,
to hear, because I
sure.
know, I'll mention it now. I know that for anyone of our listeners, and we'll have to get a link, but Cindy is doing a class on Camtasia. We don't have to focus this on Camtasia. I'm curious, when a client comes to you and says, you know what, we need this, some software training, and we want a video, what's your process that you go through towards actually creating that final piece, like start to finish? What does that typically look like?
Well, we do a lot of analysis. A lot of what we do is not, on the tail end, it's on the front end. We like to get a lot of information up front, even before we take someone on as a client. We ask a lot of questions. We have an intake form. There's a lot of information we like to gather because honestly, if it's something that can't be handled by training, I am not going to take your money.
Yeah.
So it has to be something that I feel like a problem that we can solve with training. If it is, then at that point, tell us what the objectives are, tell us what the risks are of not having the training, tell us what the problems are. Why do you need the training in the first place? When they finish this training, what do you expect to get out of it? Six months from now, we conduct the evaluation. What are the numbers do you want to see? Like we ask for data. We really want to kind of know exactly what the problem is. And a lot of people don't know, or they'll give you a very generic problem. So we ask for a lot of data. We want to know. And, if it's something like software, then, we don't really need to know all that information. It's just give us access to the software and we'll create your training for you. So it really depends on the scope of the project.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I'm a big believer of doing that analysis up front too, right? Like that, the more questions you can get answered early on will inform what you do later. So after you go through your analysis, are you doing things like storyboards, scripts? What does that development process of a video look like?
It really, again, also depends on the
Yep.
client because, we tend to work backwards. We'll ask them, when do you want this done? And if someone says, well, we need something in 2 weeks, then that's going to change the process. That's going to change the amount of steps that actually goes into this. It's going to change the solution. So we do storyboard if the client asks for a storyboard. Most don't. Most trust us to just create something, but we do use an agile project management method. So we have various iterations of something. I don't like to go back to where I've already been. So I like to, when I start developing, I don't want to go back to script writing. I don't want to go back to design. I want to stay there. So we're very transparent with our clients and we allow them to see everything as we're doing it. We'll give them 3 versions of the same video. Pick which one you want. That way we know when you say that this is final, this is the one that we want, that we can move forward to the next phase.
Oh, that makes sense. And it's interesting. I think, creating a lot of video, like a couple iterations of videos could seem like I'm guessing there's someone watching this or who will watch this and says, well, that seems like a lot of work to create 3 videos. But what's your experience been around that? Do you find with the agile processes that it's not as much work, or it's kind of equal amount of work to doing those, going back and making changes elsewhere? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not really necessarily 3 videos. We'll create a video, we'll hand it over to the client, and that would be, say, the alpha version.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give us feedback, and then we'll take that feedback, and then we give them a beta version.
Gotcha.
They'll give us feedback on that, and then we'll give them a gold or a final version. So like those are our 3 iterations of the same video, but we just keep tweaking it until they say that it's final.
Yeah, and so that makes a lot of sense, right? Like you're not creating 3 different videos, but yeah, you're just iterating through the process, which makes a lot of sense for, I think gives people a good sense of what they're going to get when they're at the very first one, right? They're going to get a sense like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this. And whether they like it or not, then you still have room to adjust. So with that, the alpha version that you deliver, how polished would you say something like that is? Is it mostly polished? Does it feel like it could be a finished product, or does it still have like the touch-ups and maybe some call-outs, annotations, other things that you might need to add to it?
We try to make it as polished as
Okay.
possible. But I mean, honestly, it's probably only ever going to be about 40% there because we're taking a stab at what they said that they want. But a lot of clients don't know what they want until they see
Yeah.
it. They'll say, well, we want X, Y, and Z, and you give them that, and they're like, well, no, we want A, B, C, right? And so then you have to change things around. So we make sure to encompass and include everything that they ask for. It might not be, 100% there. It won't be. Just hands up, it will not be. But it will give them an idea of what it will look like once it is polished up. And it gives them changes. It gives them, well, the opportunity to ask for changes. And because we didn't spend a ton of time creating this video, now it is easy for us to go back and make changes.
Yeah, I love that.
And once you polish up your video, it's hard to go back and make changes. That's more time and that's more money for the client.
For sure. Which they don't like. I'm guessing they never like that.
They don't like it. That's what I keep hearing, that they don't like when they have to pay you more money.
So, as you've been working with these clients, and you mentioned a lot of software companies, are there any misconceptions about video that are existing in the kind of that you come across in learning development, that maybe there people are saying, well, no, it can't be a video, or we don't like video? Any challenges you see in that kind of space where you've kind of had to educate the client and the stakeholders about how effective video can be?
Well, I feel like people have been sold that e-learning is basically the Bible of training. Like everybody wants e-learning. They're not sure if it's going to be effective or not, but there's so much excitement around e-learning and interactions and the bells and whistles that you can do in an e-learning module that people just inherently just ask for it. But what they want, you might not need e-learning for, or it might not translate well into e-learning, which is why we consider ourselves consultants, because we're not going to necessarily just give you what you ask for. We're going to take a look at our intake form, we're going to take a look at the analysis, and then we're going to make suggestions. And usually those suggestions will save the client money. They're willing to pay a lot more for e-learning, and maybe they just don't need it. So we explain to them that this could be done in a short video, and you have to take your audience in consideration. If you're like me, you have the attention span of a gnat. You do not want to watch an hour-long video on anything, right? So we create micro videos that people can go and just learn on that one particular topic they want to learn on.
That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I know, and I cite this stat all the time for people that have watched the stream a couple times. They will have heard it. But like with video length, it makes sense, right? Like people want the right information delivered at the right time, and they want it in the right amount of time that it takes to actually give them that information, no more. So yeah, no one really has,
Exactly.
and who has an hour of straight just kind of business time to sit down and watch something anymore? I don't have that kind of direct time to watch a video, and so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well,
I think that people equate good training with long training, and that's not necessarily true. Because if you think about where a lot of people get their information, it's like short videos on YouTube. If I want to know how to do something, I'll go to YouTube and I'll find a 3-minute video on how to do it. I won't go out and find, or get a book that's long as the Iliad, and read it to figure out how to change a light bulb. I'll go and find a short video. So, I mean, it makes sense.
So as you've been doing this, and as you've been making all these videos, are there elements of videos that you find that are consistently important for making it successful? Like, are there things that like structure or pieces that you build in that you find like you're consistently doing because it's what makes a video work for learning?
Again, I kind of go back to everyone has a fairly short attention span. Some people sign up for training because they want it. Some people are forced into training. So you have to take those people into consideration.
Right.
A lot of times, me being one of those people, I will find the easiest route to get out of the training. I might not even listen to the voiceover. So we use, annotations, and we use the things in, Camtasia, like the cursor effects, to highlight things to get the learner's attention, just in case they aren't paying attention. It's just those little things that actually add value to your video.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there's a question from the chat that I want to ask. I think is a good question. So it's Bobology, that's their username, is asking, do you use an outline that's common for training videos? Like, do you have? I guess this would kind of go to that structure, and I'm sure it always kind of depends on the analysis and stuff like that. But do you have some like common structures? Like, do you always have an what? Do you recommend having like does that make sense? Like, do you have kind of pieces that you use as in your outline that are pretty consistent?
Yes, we have an outline for everything, no matter what the training asset is. And there's certain things that you just really need to give people, like an intro, the objectives. They want to know what they're going to learn if they're watching this video or they're taking this e-learning. And what's on the outro really depends on the client. Maybe they want to direct them to another course. Maybe it's a document, maybe it's for more information. So there's certain elements that are always going to be in there. And those are pretty much the big three for me. Maybe navigation, but again, video is really easy to navigate. We all watch videos. So that's something that may or may not be in there, depending on like how complex the video is, or if we've created a different type of interaction, because in Camtasia, we have created our own menus and not used the table of contents. We've created custom menus. Okay. So in that case, we've had to give instructions on how to use this menu. So there are elements that go into every video, and then everything else is up to the client as far as like the outline, what goes in between those elements.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Like they're going to fill in the pieces, kind of. But it sounds like there's definitely some consistency that you're trying to build into whatever video. Just it sounds like it's a lot of user. Kind of like for the user's sake, right? Like if it needs instruction, if the user, the client wants to direct them someplace after the video, which makes sense to not have to recreate the wheel every single time on those. Like build it.
I mean, you have the template, right? So you have like the intro, you have the outro, you have the information with the objectives, you have the information with the instructions on what's going to happen in the video, how to navigate through the video, and then everything else is up to the client. But even those templates, slides, or those templates that we create, they're custom. We create custom training. So the intro or an outro might be one thing for one company. It might be completely different for another company. Everybody wants something different, or to say something different.
Right. Like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Real quick here, what I want to say to our audience is if you do have questions, you can see we're answering them as they come in. We're also just continuing our conversation. So if you got anything you want to ask Cindy, go ahead and put it in the chat. We are monitoring that. So we'd love to, hear what you guys want to know. I mean, Cindy's an expert at making videos. She's got a business she runs, working with people around the world. So lots of things you could potentially ask about, which seems... You're very cool, Cindy. I mean, I know you said you're like, oh, I don't have much to, what do you say about yourself? But you're very cool. This is very cool stuff.
Well, thanks.
No,
I'm okay.
Yeah. And we also connected, we'll just share this for everybody out there, that we connected on our very nerdy level this week talking about Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, I don't know if it gets much nerdier than that, but...
Look, I'm a geek, and I admit it. I like to learn, and I like anime. I like cult classic movies. Like I was telling you, like wearing my Scott Pilgrim shirt. So yeah. I watch my Dragon Ball Z. I work while watching every episode of Bob's Burgers in the background. So I mean. I don't even think that I even watch real TV anymore. I think that it's pretty much just cartoon and anime in this house like 24 hours a day.
Well, so that actually leads to an interesting question, because I just was with how we got connected about talking about Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering is I did a podcast for If You Ask Betty podcast, And, we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons and the role I felt like it had in kind of like how it affects my L&D, learning and development. And I'm curious, does the nerdum kind of things that you like, does that ever influence the work that you're doing as you think about design or analysis or kind of final output? I mean, maybe that's a stretch and it doesn't, but I'm curious.
For me, it does. I've had clients where they've asked for videos, and I've created a video that looked like a comic book because I like comic books. And when I first started in instructional design, seriously, I had this real love of the game Angry Birds. So I created an entire e-learning for field engineers around the game Angry Birds. Also like college football, mainly the University of Alabama Roll Tide for everybody who's watching. And for maybe like 10 e-learning modules, I was like subliminally just placing Alabama merch into like the e-learning, like the person, like the character would have like an Alabama coffee mug or something. And eventually my manager was like, Cindy, there's a lot of University of Alabama themes, merch in the e-learning. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, I mean,
Nice Easter eggs.
It's in there.
Well, that's awesome. Because I know, I think it's interesting that those things, oftentimes in business, I feel like we ignore kind of the sphere of influence around us, but I feel like those things do have a good influence, and there's a lot of creativity that can be found. And as you know, there's probably a group of people that say in creating tutorial videos or instructional videos is not real creative, but I find that really actually helps me with storytelling and with thinking through kind of the options and opportunities to make something that's going to be more interesting. Because as you said, people don't have a lot of time. They don't want to watch a long thing. But if you can keep them interested, that gives you some flexibility on how much information you can probably provide them.
Yeah, it goes back to, again, the client. It also goes back to the audience. If you are, designing for, let's say, millennials, my son is a millennial. His attention span is just as short as mine. And I know that if there's not something interesting in there, he just will not pay attention, So to get him to take something, I would have to create, a Dragon Ball Z themed e-learning with Broly in it and the whole bells and whistles to get him to take it. But it really depends on your audience too. You don't want to bore them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm guessing University of Alabama stuff probably doesn't play well in certain segments of, they'd much prefer their university team, right?
Maybe, but I'm just saying, if you didn't put it in the outline, you didn't say that you were a Clemson fan, then, I can probably ignore that and just do what I want. But we would take it out if asked.
Of course. Now, it looks like I'm seeing some frozen video here. I'm just going to switch views for just a second just to make sure we can get you brought back up. But it looks like your screen is frozen for me from Skype. So hopefully we're not seeing.
I can see you moving.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone can hear you. So if the audience can comment on that, they can let us know. But there's a couple more questions. And I'm going to try to do my best to understand what they're asking, but we'll go through these. So Eric asks on Facebook, Cindy, what's your best Camtasia 2020 version as opposed to the previous version? So I guess what they're asking, what's your favorite functionality or the best functionality in the Camtasia 2020 version? Is there something that you found in the new version that you think is pretty cool or that you really like using?
Well, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Camtasia fan, but I feel like every version has gotten better. Even if it's just subtle changes, I feel like every version has gotten better. And for me, I think the game changer was quizzes, because everybody wants a quiz. And, in training, we use quiz to gauge knowledge, to find out the person was paying attention. So I think that once TechSmith actually, put quizzes in there, then, that was pretty much it for me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And quizzing is one of those features, I think, in Camtasia that a lot of people don't ever touch it because they don't need to. They've got they're putting in LMS or whatever where they do their quizzing, but it is a really nice functionality to have. I know I like using it for just not official like testing purposes, but just knowledge checks along the way. Like, did you pick up on these three things, or did you understand kind of that piece of it? So,
Well, you need that for evaluation.
hmm
I know a lot of companies that we create training for don't necessarily, evaluate, or maybe they evaluate once we leave, because we always offer to evaluate our own work. But you really don't know if the training is effective if you haven't done something to evaluate it, whether it's immediately or 6 months down the road. If you saw any behavior change, did the data changed, the things that we ask for up front, did those things change? And quizzes help with that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's always good to like. We, I know we do a lot of videos. We create a lot of videos at TechSmith, and a lot of them don't do that because it's customer education. We put it out into the wild, but it's not meant to really assess everyone. So it's hard to know. It's really, except for feedback, which we appreciate everyone that sends us feedback. It's hard to know if those tutorials, how effective they really are.
Yeah.
Next question, another one from Bobology asks, do you provide closed captions for all videos, or is it a client-specific something that you do if the client requests it as part of like the proposal?
It is client specific. We ask upfront, but most of our clients do not ask for it unless they are a government agency, or if they are selling their training to a government agency, or their clients are government agencies, because at that point, 508 compliance
hmm
and ADA regulations and rules do come into play.
So a question I guess I have off that is if they're not asking for the captions, which okay, that's their prerogative. I'm guessing you're writing scripts a lot of times, so you're providing
Yes.
them that documentation, so maybe they'll caption it later at some point, or maybe they just don't.
We ask, really we ask up front, do you want closed caption? Does this need to be, course need to be accessible to everyone? And clients will say no. Some clients will say no. Some clients want all the bells and whistles, and some will be like, we really don't necessarily need that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's always, good practice to put it in there, because, later on, do you really want to come back and pay us to to put the captions in?
Always harder to come
Probably.
back.
I mean, we'll definitely take your money, but if you can save money up front by doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just good practice, right? Like, I think for anyone that's watching, if you're wondering if you should be doing that, my gut is that yes, you should provide captions. It's a really good thing to do. And it's not just about accessibility for deaf and hard of hearing, but I don't know, maybe it's my age, maybe it's my ears. I played too much. I was in a rock band and as a high schooler, and small space, played too loud. I don't know what it is, but I got loud. My kids are loud or whatever. I got the TV on. I got captions on. So, and it's not like I'm actively trying to read them. But they're there, and it helps understanding. So,
Well, 508 compliance is not just for government agencies. Government agencies are the ones that are really sticklers about it, but it's really just an overall, it's for everyone. But some companies don't, really care that much about it,
right.
and some really do. So,
So, Cindy, we've been very positive about video today. We've talked a lot about the good of video. Like obviously something. I'm a fan of video because I work for TechSmith and we make Camtasia. But are there times that you see that video is not maybe the right answer, and what's maybe an example of that?
oh, let's see. Again, I am a fan of video, but video is not always necessarily the answer. Um, it really kind of like depends on the subject. Let me see if I can think of a topic. Um, so we created a lot of courses for finance. So I don't think that finance is something that translates well into video. I really think that if you are teaching someone how to do something, as far as like software, like, touch and feel and click and, and point, and people need to see what's going on, that's great for video. But if it's more informational, if you're conveying information, and you want to be able to kind of test that knowledge in between modules or in between topics, I think that e-learning is better for that.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. Although I will say, I don't, YouTube is a wondrous, mysterious thing. Somehow I got in my YouTube feed and on the homepage a guy that talks about he's an accountant of all things. I'm not into accounting. I don't really care. Like I do my taxes. That's about all the accounting I get to. But he does daily updates on what's going on with everything since COVID-19 happened, and he's a YouTuber, right? Like he's got 635,000 subscribers, I think, and he's just interesting. Do I really care that much about what the accounting piece of it? No, but like he's fun to watch. So it's not maybe good learning, but it's interesting that you mentioned accounting as the example.
Yeah, I think even like another example would be, um, let's say that it needs to be self-paced. Like it really needs to be self-paced. You really want the learner to be able to control, how fast the slides move. You want them to be able to kind of like just kind of hit the replay button on the e-learning module. Because if I get bored, again, I get bored easily, I will listen to a slide 3 or 4 times and never hear it.
Yeah.
I'll keep hitting the replay button because something is distracting me. So with e-learning, you can just, small chunks of learning on one slide, not too much, not too much text, not too much audio. People can get it and then they can move on once they've gotten it. As opposed to videos, I feel like people feel like they just have to watch the entire video, like they can't pause. Like you can pause, right? We have a pause button. But I feel like people feel like they just have to watch the entire video. So when we create training, we actually have instructional based videos where we'll say, pause now and do this. We'll give them instructions because we feel like if we don't, then they'll probably just keep going. And then they'll try to come back later and find that spot in the video.
Yeah, which is tough. Like scrubbing through video, like I mean, there's lots of debates out there. I think about like text, video, whatever. One of the disadvantages of video is scrubbing is not very good. It's hard to find specific points unless it's somehow been like marked with a caption, or not with a caption, but like a table of contents, or you've given someone a timestamp or something like that so they can easily get to it. So yeah, makes total sense. And what a great simple interaction you build in, right? Just telling people to interact with the video by stopping it.
Yeah, just put in and you're using Camtasia, then use the markers, right? Mm-hmm. Use the markers, create the buttons, and then you have the option to, pause once someone gets to like the end of like a time frame. So you can create your own table of contents. You can create your own menu. So that's a good way for people to kind of just go back and click and just listen to the part of the video that they want to listen to.
Yeah, which is something I know, especially when it comes to fixing stuff. I'm terrible at fixing stuff around my house, so I always have to go out to YouTube and I'm looking stuff up. But it's a lot of rewinding, right? Like rewatch that. Did I get it? Did I get it? And even when I'm watching videos at work, sometimes what happens is I'm like start the video and I slowly do this, and then I find myself I'm writing an email and I'm not paying attention to what I should be paying attention to. So.
I am not handy at all, so I don't go to YouTube to try to fix anything. I will call someone to fix anything, a light bulb, like a stain on the carpet. It doesn't matter. I'm not handy.
We got other skills, right? We can do
right.
instructional video. Our next question is what's the number one thing new customers ask for when they ask for a training video other than price?
Well, price is definitely number one. I think that we get the question of how we can make it interesting, how we can make it interactive, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just a regular schmegular, video that someone's watching for 30 minutes. And also we get the questions about, duration. A lot of times we have to cut the script down, or we have to turn what they would think would be one video into 3 because no one wants to watch an hour-long or 2-hour-long video. So I think that the second question would be, how can you make this interesting? How can we make this interactive?
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that being a very popular question. Um, so if I was to come to you and say, Cindy, hey, I want you to create a video on, I don't know, Snagit. We'll use, instead of talking about Camtasia all the time. And I said, how would you make it interesting or interactive? What's the top ways that like you would think about, and not to give away all your secrets here, you don't have to give us the secret sauce, but like what suggestions would you give someone off the top of your head?
Well, one, I would say give me more money. And then after you gave me more money, then I mean, there's always ways to make videos interactive, right? You know, we've seen the buttons, we've seen the annotations, we've seen the call outs. So all of those things work, right? You know, you can highlight things, you can blur things. There's so many tools in there that you can use. It's really up to you and how creative you are. um, that's the part I think that people, fail. Like you can use the software, you can learn how to use the software. It might not be that hard for you if you're a person who is, fairly technical and pick up on things fairly quick. But the creativity part is a whole different beast. It's kind of really up to you. There's a lot of tools in there that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how are you going to use them? When you get to a key point that, the customer really wants to, highlight, what tool in there are you going to use to highlight it without making it gawky? Because people can go over with the animations and the interactions and it just becomes too busy and you can't focus. But there's a lot of subtle things that you can do.
Yeah, it comes down to like the principles of any good design, right? Good design, I think, is a lot about what can you cut away, take more and more away until you've got the right things left, at kind of at its essence, without being too little yet it doesn't have too much.
Well, you always want more because you can always cut down, right? But if someone gives you too little, then you always have to keep going back and asking them for more.
Right.
So we ask our clients to help us outline something. We like, give us everything. Give us everything, even if you feel like we don't need it. We'll tell you when to stop. And then we will go ahead and we'll chunk that information, to make sure that it matches the objectives. And then once we have what we need, we'll write the script, and the script turns out to be 75 pages long. Then we can cut down from there. But at least we have something to cut down from.
Yeah, 75 pages. Now that's a heck of an instructional video. At 75
No,
pages.
we literally had a client that had a script that went on forever. We kept cutting it down and
Oh,
giving it back to them, and they kept adding more information. I'm like, no, we're cutting it down. And they
wow.
kept adding more information. So it was about 30 pages.
Now, in my world at least, we typically, and it varies depending on your script style and stuff like that, but that usually we think about 1 minute per page. So it was like, yeah, that's like 30-minute video. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, it ended up being micro videos. We're like, look,
Gotcha.
we're going to cut these into topics and we're going to turn them into micro videos and we're going to have a video per topic. And that's just the kind of way that we're going to do it.
Gotcha. So one of the things I've been thinking about as you've been sharing some of your wisdom and insights, about video is that TechSmith did some research. We call it our video viewer study. I've mentioned it in the live streams before if anyone's watched it, but it's basically we've done this a couple times. We did it in 2013, 2016, end of 2018. And it talks about like one of the things we asked about is, like why do people stop watching, ideal length of video. But one of the things we've seen kind of the pattern of is the importance of the context that the video sits in. As you're creating your videos, how much are you thinking about things like titles or text that's going to be above or below or other materials that sit around directly on the page around the video? Is that something you're thinking much about, or kind of do you have an opinion about how much of a role that might play on getting someone to start watching and to keep them watching?
Well, I'm always thinking about the script. Like I said, I started out in news writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, we were taught, look, you have to have a catchy title. This is how you draw people in. This is what the first paragraph really needs to say to keep people reading. You don't want to give them everything or they'll stop reading, but you don't want to give them nothing or they will just basically, stop reading altogether. So you have to balance it out. And it's the same thing with training. You have to balance it out. It's not going to be maybe excitement in every frame, but you give them something to look forward to in the next minute, and the next minute, and the next minute, to keep them wanting to watch. I mean, just think about movies, right? When you get to like halfway through a movie, if you've already figured out who killed who, you're like, I'm gone. I've literally sat in AMC and got bored and pulled up my phone and went to Wikipedia and read the end of the movie because I'm like, okay, this is going on for too long. I already know what happened. All right, we could leave at this point.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that. You want to you want to draw it out, but you don't want to draw it out with fluff. You don't want to be boring and just draw it out for drawing it out's sake. You have to give them something to chew on.
For sure. Well, Cindy, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you. And I know you've got a Camtasia training coming up. Will you tell us a little bit about what that is, so anyone that's interested in maybe learning more about that opportunity?
Yeah, so we're going to do a 3-hour workshop on Camtasia on the 25th of June. So we're really going to go over all the features and show what Camtasia can do. The class that we usually offer is 2 days, but this is going to be 3 hours just to kind of get people interested so they can see what they can do with the software, to get some hands-on practice with the software. And then, they can, go to TechSmith Academy, watch some videos, or they can come back to us and, and take the self-paced training, just as long as they learn.
And if someone's interested in participating in that with you, where would they need to go? And I think I saw Jesse post way early on a link to it. I don't see that right now, but we'll get the link into the comments and to the descriptions and stuff. So where would they go?
Yeah, and if they go to our website, they can just go. If they go to our website, digitalartifex.net, just click on courses, and you will actually see the introduction to Camtasia right there.
Yeah, awesome. And the cost of taking that class?
Most of our webinars and workshops are free. This one is $10. So, not doing it for the money, but we want people to attend if they really want to know. There's a lot of people who are either out of work or furloughed. This has been a difficult time for people. So we've been trying to offer training and offer things where, kind of teach people how to fish.
Yeah.
So they can take this skill set they can learn while they're in quarantine or not in quarantine. And then, when the next opportunity comes around, they have something new to put on their resume.
Yeah. This, the $10 is the earnest money, right? Like you're serious about doing this.
Yeah, right. Because we don't want you to take someone else's seat because we actually have to put a cap on how many people can attend, because we really want to be able to answer questions. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to answer questions if 250 people sign up. So we want to make sure that the people sign up really want to be there.
Yeah, no, I think that's super awesome. And I know we're really appreciative of you. We love it when people that are not us are teaching our products, because we think that just shows, it shows the value of the product. And we're so appreciative of you taking that on and teaching a course about it. And for all those that are out there, go listen, go learn from Cindy. She's got a lot of experience.
Right.
So
we have a lot to talk about. So come visit us.
Absolutely. And I put your the website in the chat, and we'll make sure it gets in the comments for people that are posting that are, later on, they're not going to be able to watch, they're not going to see the chat because it will just be a recorded video. But Cindy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, your day to chat with me. It's been fun. I always love learning from other professionals who are making video, their knowledge, and appreciate that you spent some time sharing it with our audience today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and let me know how that Dungeons and Dragons thing goes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure people are thinking, what the heck? What's that all about? But maybe I've got some ideas and some things that would be pretty cool to help people in the L&D space. I think we're all in this together. These kind of interesting the new normal times, but hopefully we can make everyone's lives a little bit better. And with that. We've got a couple questions. This is really important before we wrap up, because it goes to the training. They Excel on Fire, great username. Who is this training best for? Beginners, advanced? Like, I'm guessing it's beginners?
I would say beginners. We're going to go over the features, but the thing is, I feel like everybody, whether you are an advanced person, you will learn something new because I tend to ramble and I tend to like to show people like the advanced functionality of software and things that it can do. And maybe that's something you thought of, and maybe it's something you didn't think of. But I like to, again, give people something to think about so they go, wow, this is what the software really can do. And I usually show a lot of examples of more advanced interactions that you can, play around in Camtasia or any other software to really get you interested, get you motivated to do more.
Yeah, and I mean, like any software, especially any software that need depth, 3 hours, it's a great start, but it's not going to take you through everything.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You'll have to come back for the 2-hour class to get that, but still, you will learn something. And we spend a lot of time answering questions, just like you. We answer questions. So if you have questions that deal with advanced techniques, we're willing to answer those.
For sure.
It's an open forum.
Well, that's super awesome. And thanks again for joining us today. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for your questions. One last thing I'll mention from the chat that the person that asked a lot of those questions, Bobology, just mentioned that they used to live in Inman Park and loves Atlanta. So.
Oh, well, I am not too far from Inman Park. So, hey, you should come back.
Awesome.
It's still here.
Another person just said, I'm putting hitting Clemson Tiger tags in my software code from now on.
I am not taking your software. I am not taking your classes. Roll Tide.
Oh, see what we've started. What a friendly thing to argue about is universities, though. So.
I'm an anarchist when it comes to college football, at least. Right? Don't get me started in September. Like in September, this would have been a completely different conversation.
For sure. All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate, again, your time. One last just quick mention here that if you are looking to learn video, obviously we just heard from Cindy that you can go out and you can check out her offering. We've got tons of free tutorials on techsmith.com. If you're looking for less product-specific learning, but more about video, writing scripts, storyboards, shooting your videos, getting better audio quality in whatever environment you're in, go check out the TechSmith Academy. It is all free for you guys. It's on demand. You guys can check it out. And of course, we're thankful for everybody that tunes in. We'll be back next week. We're going to be talking about video and higher education. So if you've got any friends that are working in the higher ed space and they've been seriously affected by all the transitions and colleges everything moving online, come check it out. We'll be available, and we'll be with Ryan Aish. He's from TechSmith as well. So check it out. And again, I like to say the best way to get going with video is get started. If you've never done it before, get started today, make something. And just every time you make a video, make it a little bit better and level up every single day. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next time.